morning live drive. Never done this before. Thought I'd just go out, take a little cruise. I'm not even sure how well the signal's gonna maintain since we're running off cell towers, I guess. But I'm just out kind of cruising around. Felt the urge to go run through the gears a little bit this morning, particularly given today's video topic on the channel, right? So I thought I'd bring you guys with me. You know, I have the manual because I get the urge once in a while. I've mentioned before on the channel that, you know, hey, I grew up learning how to drive on the manual transmission, right? So it's kind of in my blood, if you know what I mean. Well, we got a lot of walkers out here this morning. So we're going to get out on the road. You got to pay attention here. I didn't know we had so many people walking around in the neighborhood, but apparently we do. So how are you guys this morning? I'm not seeing comments on here, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. But if anybody, there's some comments. Little Klondike, how you doing? I got to make a turn here, make sure I see where I'm going. Buzz is good. Hit the like button. Absolutely. Morning. Cold morning in Kentucky. It's 72 degrees and humid. Very humid here this morning. I've got a coat on. I don't know that I really need it. I'm wearing shorts, I can tell you that. Let's see where to go. Looks like it could rain. It rained here last night. Matter of fact, it poured. Morning from Maryland. How you doing there, Joan? And if I mispronounce anybody's name or even get it wrong, I apologize. You know, I'm trying to see the road while I glance over at the comments. That's not a coat. Nah, it's like a, I don't know what you call it. Send some of that warmth this way. Yeah, you know, for most of my life, I lived up north in Ohio. I live in South Texas now in the RGV. And for most of my life, I lived in Texas, or not Texas, Ohio, and Michigan. So I'm very familiar with cold weather, snow, all that kind of stuff. Been there, done that, not looking to do it anymore. Plus, for what I do now with the channel and stuff, obviously, it's much better to be in an environment where I can do things outside whenever I want. Without freezing to death or having to worry about weather so much. I mean, it does get cold here. You know, it's, well, cold is a relative term, right? Let's see. It's not a political channel there, brother. You're in the wrong place, man. If you want to push your agenda, go somewhere else. I mean, really. But anyway, out cruising around. Oops. Just took a bit of a bump there. Kind of wanted to talk about the manual a little bit. You know, I have a video out this morning that real Tacoma owners are gear grinders, you know. I started off with a different title that know how to drive a manual. And the point in that video really is not that you're not a real truck driver if you don't know how to drive a manual. It's that it's the connection, the heritage, the true, more pure driving experience, right? I think everybody should know how to drive a manual. It doesn't mean you have to own one now. And you know, driving a manual is kind of like riding a bicycle, right? I mean, once you learn it, once you master it, you never forget. And when I say master it, you really do have to master it, you know? Jumping in a car and driving a couple of times on manual, and thinking that you've somehow mastered driving a manual and that you'll always know how to do it, there's no way. I mean, if you go for several years without driving a manual, having never mastered it, you're probably not going to remember. Oh, here's a nice popped up Tacoma. Let's see if they wave at me. No, it's a woman, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I think it's pretty cool. Matter of fact, I believe statistics recently came out that show that more women are buying the Tacoma than men are. But my point there is I seem to get less waves from women. You know, I don't know if it's because I'm a man and they don't want to wave because, you know, but I've noticed that. Even in Jeeps, you know, when I drive the Gladiator around, you know, you have the Jeep wave. But women just don't seem to wave as often as men do, you know, and it may be for good reason. I mean, you know, you worry about giving the wrong impression, I suppose, right? So maybe that's why they don't. I don't know, but I just seem to get less waves. And you know, in my Tacoma, in all fairness, it's tinted pretty dark, so you can't see in it really well unless you're looking and the light's right from the front. So maybe they just can't even see. You know, if I do the wave, maybe they don't even know I'm waving at them. I don't know. It's hard to tell, but I just find that kind of strange. But anyway, the manual transmission. You know, I talk a lot on the channel about the manual transmission being so hokey, right? Clunky, rattly, not smooth, and it's not. Technology is killing the manual transmission. Can't blame manufacturers. It's all about money. Well, that's true. I mean, you know, it's funny. You get so many people out there that comment about the manual and everybody should be driving a manual. Why aren't they producing more manuals? You can't find a manual. Well, it's our fault. I mean, you know, the manufacturers are not going to produce a product that nobody wants to buy, right? I mean, what kind of business is that? You know, you're selling rocks and nobody wants a rock. You're probably not going to be selling rocks very long, right? So it makes perfect sense, and it's our fault. You know, I mean, if we were buying more of them, the manufacturers would obviously make more of them, right? So it's kind of a bummer, I know. And I really do think the manual is gonna disappear anyway. It's unfortunate, but I'm sure there were guys saying that about the horse and buggy back in the day, right? And the old Model A's and Model T's and all those, right? I'm sure there were people that weren't happy when those were going by the wayside. And it's the same thing for the manual transmission today. I mean, there just isn't going to be enough support out there to keep selling them. So you'll only be able to get them used, you know, and then you'll probably have to rebuild them yourselves eventually. Dan the Man, you are totally correct. Lazy is lazy. I don't know if it's lazy so much as other things to do, you know, or just not wanting to mess with it, you know. And some people shouldn't drive a manual. I mean, there are people out there who have a pretty hard time concentrating on the road just in doing that, just in driving, right? So I don't know why I'm all washed out. Maybe that's a little better. There we go. It's weird. But anyway, there are some people out there who just shouldn't drive a manual. There are some people out there who just shouldn't drive, period, right? I read on the manual MT, let's see, group, manual transmission will not be available after 2023. Doesn't surprise me. Hey, Rick, how you doing? Women drivers are more weary of men drivers. Yeah, for good reason. I mean, you know, men are pigs. You know, we're pigs. Don't ever trust a man. We only have one thing in mind. You know, men are just pigs, and I am one, so I feel that I can say that. Untrue, of course. You can't categorize everybody as the same, but I mean, I have a daughter, you know, and I hope she's leery of them as well. Better safe than sorry. You know, it's unfair, I know. What can I say? It's early in the morning, you know. But yeah, after 2023, huh? Now, are you talking about manuals as a whole, or are you talking about particular brands, or what after 2023? Somebody had told me recently that they were trying to order a manual transmission Tacoma for 2021, and they couldn't get one. Now, I think that's a bunch of BS. I don't know if that was a dealership, some kind of mommy complex from a salesman at the dealership that was trying to look out for the buyer so that they didn't buy something that they wouldn't like. Because as far as I know, you can still go out, at least on the website, and order a manual transmission. So it's not like you can't buy one at all, as far as I understand it. I could be wrong, maybe not, but I can't imagine Toyota has killed it yet. I mean, there are people who have gotten manual transmissions for 2021 that they've ordered. So you know, I find it kind of hard to believe, or I shouldn't say ordered, picked up. At least that's what people have told me, that they've been able to find 2021 manuals on the lots. So I don't really buy that they're gone yet. But yeah, I could see by 2023 they be completely gone. Who knows? And as far as cars go, man, it's really getting slim pickings in cars. And I'm talking about in the United States. You know, I get comments on the channel. People mention that, you know, I'm not taking into account other countries, because in other countries the manual is the predominant setup. In other words, the automatics are not as common as the manuals are. Of course, I don't know if that's true. I don't live in other countries, but I'm speaking really only within the United States. And I don't know, I'm trying to think what's left of a manual transmission car here now. I am talking about the Tacoma in 2023 when they move all production to Mexico. Now, there you go. But what's left in a manual transmission in cars? I'm trying to think. You know, we had the Honda Civic Sport, the Honda Civic SI. Man, I can't think of any other manual transmissions now that you can buy new, and you can't. They're getting rid of the Civic SI, and I believe they're going to be stopping production soon on the Civic Type R, which is a manual transmission, or at least changing it up. Yeah, I can't think of any other manual transmissions that you can buy now within the United States. The Volkswagen Golf has a manual. Okay, forgot about the Golf. What about the GTI? Or are you talking the same thing? Our 2020 Honda Civic hatchback was ordered with a 6-speed manual. Yeah, this is for 2021. But I'm not sure. I'm still not sure if you can buy just a regular Civic hatch. I would suppose you probably can. The Subaru. There you go. There's another. Forgot about the Subaru. I guess it's too early for me to be thinking. So yeah, the Volkswagen, the Subaru, the Honda. So that's quite a few. I mean, that's 3 at least. Of course, you can get the Jeep Gladiator in a manual transmission still, as well as the, oh, there goes the Gladiator right now. Awesome. As well as the Wrangler. So you can still get Jeeps in manual transmissions. And again, I apologize if I'm missing some of the comments. I'm driving and they pop up on my screen and then they disappear. So Dodge. Is Dodge still putting out, what are they putting out? The Hellcat? Or do they have other models in a manual? I actually drove, I think it was pretty sure it was a Hellcat. About 3 years ago, a dealer friend of mine worked for a dealership. I used to go over there and drive cars when he'd get them in, something unique or something like that. Let me tell you something about that, by the way. The Chevy Camaro SS is, okay, so I'm way off base. Sounds like there's still a lot of manuals for the picking out there, which is good. That's cool. But anyway, I friends with a guy who is a car salesman, I should say, and I used to go drive cars when he'd get something unique in or whatever. I'd go over, he'd let me drive it, you know, kind of publicity for him and the dealership. And for me, it was content. So, of course, I moved to Texas, and then wouldn't you know, and I don't know if he watches these videos, you know, if he does, Jesse, how you doing? But anyway, he went to work for an exotic car dealer. A high-end exotic car dealer. It's called the Toy Barn, actually in Dublin, Ohio. They sell it all, and I'm talking about Lamborghinis, Ferraris, you name it. They sell those kind of vehicles, as well as others. They have a used section, I guess, that they sell other used. And all of these are, as far as I know, are used. They may have some new, I'm not exactly sure, but pretty cool place. It's a good place to go and spend a little bit of time on the weekend. A lot of people do. I'm from Texas. I'm from Baytown. Awesome. I'm from the RGV here in South Texas. So we're neighbors, sort of. Although it's funny, being neighbors in Texas is not like being neighbors in any other state, right? Like from Ohio, for example. You know, in Ohio, 2 hours would get you pretty much anywhere still within the state. You drive much longer than that unless you're going kind of diagonally and you're out of the state, right? In Texas, you drive for 8 hours and you're still in Texas, you know? So your neighbor might be what I'm used to being 2 states away, you know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, that's my story. And then I moved to Texas, of course, from Ohio, and it was shortly thereafter that Jesse went to work for this exotic car dealer that had all these exotic cars, you know? And it just drives me nuts, because I'm assuming I would have been able to go over and at least, you know, get a little closer to them. I don't know that they'd have let me take them out. I mean, we're talking about, you know, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 plus cars, so who knows? But still, would have been pretty cool to do that. So I don't know. So we're just out cruising. I'm in the manual transmission. Just my impressions of it now after a little bit while we're on here, while I'm out driving around. It has loosened up. Loosened up is probably the wrong word. It's pretty loose normally. It's gotten a little bit smoother, and I think that might just be a factor of working in the gears, you know, from when it was brand new. You know, you get a brand new vehicle and everything is really stiff. You know, the notching for the shifts, things like that. The clutch, although I haven't really noticed the clutch being too stiff. Let's try that out. Yeah, the clutch isn't bad. You know, that's interesting, because that's one thing. Brady, oh man, really? But that's one thing I didn't really notice in the truck when I got it. And I'm usually very cognizant of that, especially if the clutch is really, really stiff. You know, I like a clutch that you basically look at and it depresses. You know, I don't like a stiff clutch, man. I like to, somebody just waved at me. I like to just barely push on it. And it's not bad in the Tacoma at all. It's a little bit stiffer than I'd say a Honda Civic, which I've mentioned before has the best manual transmission out there. Oops, just popped the clutch a little too quick there. You might have seen the truck jump. But I like a nice, soft, easy clutch, man. I don't want to have a leg that's twice the size of my other one because of the workout I get running the clutch, right? But it's not bad at all. I think they've done a good job there, keeping the clutch nice and supple, nice and smooth for people like me. It's just too bad they didn't put a little more into the transmission. You know, I think the Tacoma could really scratch a lot more itches. How many miles do you have on your Tacoma? I have 33,000 on a 19. I don't even know if I should tell you that. I mean, I have, let's just say I have a lot less than you do. And that's because primarily for me, it's just for running around errands and stuff. You know, if I'm going to take a long distance trip like I did to Colorado, it's going to be in the Gladiator, because it's just more comfortable. It's more comfortable. And it's more powerful. It feels more powerful, and I want that on the open road, right? When I'm out there trying to pass people on the freeway or a lot of the side roads, it seems, country roads that you have to utilize when you're traveling from South Texas to Colorado, I want to be able to get up and go, man. Wish the clutch was a bit heavier in my 17. Do a little travel trailer. Yeah, see, I'm not a big, and I'm sorry, the comment disappeared after that, but I'm just not a big heavy clutch guy, man. I like the clutch nice and smooth, and I don't want to put a lot of effort into it, man. I want it to just kind of glide along and be nice and easy, you know? I don't know, it's just me, and that's probably because when I was learning, I mean, I learned how to drive a manual transmission on probably the worst car you could ever learn to drive a manual transmission on, right? It was let's see, when would I have been? I don't remember the year of it, but it was a Plymouth K car. I don't know if you're familiar with a Plymouth K car, but it was basically a square, cheapo, economy type 4-door sedan. It was a 4-speed manual. The clutch was horrible. The gear shifter was horrible. Finding the gears in that car, and that's probably good for a new learning driver, I guess, of a manual transmission, because you really had to be precise to get that car in gear. I mean, it was so loosey-goosey. You'd be shifting all over the place, and one time it even popped out, the shifter. I mean, come on, man. But it was horrible. It was horrible to drive. I did learn how to drive in that car, and strangely, I took my driver's test in that car. It's funny though, as I recall, the instructor, the person that was giving you the test, you know, never even said anything about it being a manual transmission. You know, I don't even know if the person giving the test knew how to drive a manual themselves. Maybe that's why they didn't say anything about it. Maybe the person that gave me the test didn't even know how to drive a manual themselves. You know, I bet that's possible, and I bet you that's why they never said it. I never thought about this until right now. I'm having a revelation right here in this live stream on a Saturday morning with you guys and gals. I'll bet you that what do you call them? Instructor? They weren't an instructor. They were the one administering the test. I'll bet you they didn't know how to drive a manual transmission. And I'll bet you that's why they didn't say anything to me about it. Because I probably knew more about driving that car than they did. Yet they're the ones giving me the test, right? And you know, it's funny. I went through the whole process. Let's see, my driver's test could not believe I was taking a test in a manual. There you go. I went through that whole test, never had any issues. I wouldn't say I had mastered the manual yet at that point. Probably not. But I didn't have any issues, and the only ding that I got, because I had always heard that those people will not give you 100%. They said that when I turned back, and this is at the end of the test, right? And I know this wasn't true. But when I turned back into the station, you know, the building where I was taking the test, that I took the turn too wide. That was their ding against me. I mean, give me a break, man. Here's a 16-year-old kid driving a freaking manual transmission, and you're gonna ding me for what you said was a wide turn pulling back into the station. I could not believe it. And I mean, I was obviously very aware of what I was doing, right? I mean, when you're that age and you're taking your driver's test, you're paying attention. If you're like me anyway, and you want to learn and you want your test, right? When I learned how to drive, everyone drove a manual. Well, you learned how to drive back in the 40s. I mean, come on. But anyway, I'm kidding. I just couldn't believe that, wow, somebody just blew right through a red light right beside me. I don't know if you guys saw that truck go flying by on the side there. Man, that was a T-bone waiting to happen. Jeez. And there went another Tacoma. I was talking the other day, let's see, my motorcycle was manual. I actually took my first test for driving on a motorcycle. I don't know about when you did it, but when I did it, we had to go through the course with the tester there. I mean, they walked around, you had to drive through the cones, make the 40 or 90 degree turn, accelerate in between the lines, all that stuff. I actually had my driver's license for a motorcycle before I had the car. And it was funny because I used to drive my motorcycle to driver's ed class. You know, we had to take driver's ed back in my day. I took it at the school, you know, the public school we went to on Saturdays. And I always thought it was funny. I didn't have a driver's license. I couldn't drive a car by myself, but I could hop on my motorcycle and I rode it to driver's ed. I mean, it was just a joke. Oh, and let me tell you something. It's story time, I guess. This is kind of funny, I think. And then we're probably going to get off here. So let me tell you this little story. My 17 manual, 103,000 miles, and happily no repairs. Not sure when the clutch needs service. You got to be getting close. That many, unless it's been replaced before you got it or you've done it earlier. 103,000 miles on an original clutch. I think that's pretty good. Yes, and make a figure 8 turn. I had my motorcycle course as well. We took to school. Coach was the instructor. Yeah, exactly. But I'm taking my driver's ed class, right? And we get to the point, because you also went out and did driving. Would you ever trade your Tacoma for a full-size truck? I will never trade the Tacoma. Here comes a Lamborghini. A gray, is it a Lamborghini? Nope. Yes. I don't know if you guys saw that. It sits so low, you don't see a lot of Lamborghinis here where I'm at in South Texas. So I believe it's a doctor actually that owns one. It's pretty bad when you know who owns the car, right? So anyway, on to my story. I'm old like you, Rob. Oh, well, thanks. I prefer experienced or seasoned. Like a fine wine or a filet mignon. So anyway, we start our driving segment of the driver's ed class, right? We get in the cars, we're going out, and the driver's ed teacher was pretty cool guy. He might have been a coach there too, like you mentioned, but he was a pretty laid back guy, right? So we get in the cars, and he's not paying a whole lot of attention, and he says, well, you guys can just drive. I can tell that all you guys have experience and you know how to drive anyway. And I'm like, this is the first time I've ever been on the road in a car, on the road. And I've never driven over, like, I don't know, probably 20 miles an hour. I mean, I had driven cars like on dirt roads and stuff. We actually had this like dirt little road out by our house, right? And every once in a while I would take the car and just drive up this little dirt road area. Now we have a semi. I don't know what the heck he's doing. I think he's lost. But we would drive up this dirt road. I mean, and we would go very slow. It was a dirt road, right? So we get in this car, and I'm like horrified when he tells me, not just driving normally, although that was a bit scary because I'd never been around other cars, right? I mean, I was by myself on a dirt road. What are you going to hit, a tree? So he takes us out on the road. It's a slow road, 30 mile an hour. And then he says, usually we don't do this until the second or third. This is when he said this. He said, usually we don't do this until like the second, third, fourth time, whatever, but we're in the freeway, higher speeds, because I know all you guys know what you're doing, right? I'm like mortified. I've never been over 20 mile an hour in a car, right? We're going to hit 55, 60, 65. I mean, come on, man. My coach had cows all over the parish, and we would drive and check on them. Cool. So he takes us out on the freeway, and then it's my turn, right? I jump in the driver's seat, and I'm like terrified, man. I've never driven a car this fast. I'm like, holy God, man, I don't even know what this feels like. So I go, because I'm gonna go, man. I'm gonna learn how to drive that car if it kills us all, right? So we get on the freeway, man, and I get up to speed. I'm hitting, I don't know, 65 probably, and it was in his or the driver's ed car. I don't remember if it was his, but it kind of pulled a little bit, man. So you had to fight it. I wasn't used to that, so I feel like I'm floating, and I feel like just the slightest twitch is going to throw me off the road, right? So I'm terrified, man. And then somebody in front of me, I'm right on him. I'm not right on him, but I'm closer than I should have been. And this person hits their brakes, and I don't know what. I didn't hit the brakes right away. I just think that connection between my brain and my foot was severed at the moment through the other nerves that were firing because I was so nervous, right? So I don't hit the brake right away. I mean, it was just a split second after he hit his brake. He kind of looks up and gets this look on his face and hits the brake, and we do a little bit of this. There was no sliding or anything like that. We just did a little bit of this and slowed down. But I just thought, listen, bud, you're putting a lot of faith in a carload full of guys that you don't know what our experience is. This is the first time I've ever driven on a road this fast. So it was just kind of funny. That wasn't automatic, of course. It was the driver's ed car, so they didn't teach you in a manual transmission. But that was my only, and it wasn't really a bad experience. Again, I exaggerate how much force was given to stop, but he did stop on his brake pedal over there, pretty firmly, I must admit. Never had any troubles after that. I mean, I learned at that moment not to get so close to people on the freeway. Does anyone know what is the biggest tire and wheel setup for a stock 21 Tacoma Limited? I would not go above a 33-inch, probably a 32-inch, because then you're going to have to be concerned about rubbing problems. So I wouldn't go above a 32-inch, and I wouldn't go above a 17-inch wheel. I think 16, 17 is perfect, because if you go with anything bigger, like a 20, for example, you may have fitment issues and definitely going to have ride quality issues, because you're going to reduce the width of the tire wall, and that's going to give you a really crappy ride. Oh, we got a kid here. Oh no, there's a turtle. He picked up a turtle in the road and set it off the road. All kinds of things going on here, man. And I don't know, real quick before I get off here, I put up a little wildlife snippet. I don't know if any of you folks saw it. It's over on Instagram. My Instagram account, of course, is RobMotive. Of a little wildlife experience I had yesterday, set to some enlightening and engaging music. Check it out if you haven't. It's just funny, I think. It's not very long either. Anyway, I'm going to get off here. I just kind of wanted to go for a ride, bring you guys along with me. Anybody that was interested, Terrence saw it. There you go. How was the bacon? They're actually protected here. I think they have seasons. But you can't just go out and off one of them. At least you can't get caught doing it. So anyway, appreciate you guys joining me. I hope you all have a fantastic Saturday. Just wanted to bring you along for a little ride. I may do this occasionally. This was kind of an experiment. I didn't know if the live stream would actually work, driving into different cells and stuff, but no one has told me that we had any problems or interruptions in the stream, so I guess it went good. Anyway, thanks for being on. Have a safe and happy weekend, and I'll see you on the web. Bye.